Welcome, history fanatics, to Mrs. Heron's video playlist, where you will get the best of the best in social studies.
Welcome back, Class A Comets. Today we're in Unit 5, Southwest Asia and North Africa. Our question for this unit is, how did civilizations develop in Southwest Asia and North Africa? We're addressing standards 7.3.4 and 7.3.2 today. The question I want you to be able to ask by the end of today is, what role does oral tradition play in culture?
While exploring in France, you make an amazing discovery that has been hidden from the world for the past 15,000 years. You have stumbled upon one of the world's first examples of art left behind by our prehistoric ancestors. The caves you have just entered are the Lascaux Caves, and they begin your journey through ancient human history.
Detective Williams, we have a dead body found in the mountains. He's covered in ice and looks like he's been here for a while.
The year was 1991. Two hikers were climbing the snow-capped Alps on the border of Austria and Italy in Europe. It was the frozen remains of a Neolithic man from 3000 BC, over 5,300 years ago. His body was taken to a laboratory to be tested, where scientists found that he had actually been murdered all those years ago. Because this was before people could read or write, they had to use his clothing and tools to learn more about his life. His clothing was created from animal skin that had been stitched together, indicating he likely came from a community with people who could sew. Yet his most important item was his copper axe. This meant that he had to have lived after the invention of copper in 4000 BC. Around 5,000 years ago, people in Southwest Asia and in Africa began to develop systems of writing. Eventually, people began to write their experiences down and record what was happening at the time. The word history literally means the written record of people, meaning prehistory is, you guessed it, before people could write. To study people before the invention of writing, archaeologists used objects as clues to the people and cultures they are researching, like Otzi's clothing and copper axe. They carefully extract bones, tools, and other objects from the dirt at a chosen campsite. Their findings can tell them a lot about the people who lived there. For example, archaeologists have found that prehistoric people used different sizes of stones, called flint, to kill various animals. Large animals like bears required larger stones, whereas smaller animals such as birds and fish required smaller stones. Historians are people who study written records. They don't have to rely on objects like archaeologists. Instead, they examine what accomplishments were being made at the time, like wars, religions, and rulers, among other things. They will also research what other groups were writing about each other at that time. The final way that we obtain information about human history is through oral tradition. Oral traditions are stories that are passed down from one generation to the next, or storytelling. These stories could be about family history or even about events or heroes that lived in the past. This means that they may not be completely true or historically accurate, yet they are still very important to studying human history. A griot is a person selected to carry on the history of a family. They can be found in various countries throughout Africa and are in charge of memorizing the history of their village, including deaths, births, and important events like wars. They then retell these stories to the village children and people, and select young men in the village to become the next griot.
In Africa, when a griot dies, it's like if a library burn, because we don't write the history and the paper before, but griot have the whole history in his head. So when he pass away, he's going with the history. If he don't have a son to teach him, so that means when a griot pass away, it's like if a library born.
To review, we talked about the Lascaux Caves, Otzi the Iceman, history, prehistory, archaeologists, historians, oral traditions, and the African griot. See you next time.